Working on a roads deal, the uproar over Electoral College vote changes, the impact of the president's immigration order, and Nolan makes a cameo on late-night TV. Stay put. MiWeek starts right now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Hi there and welcome to MiWeek. I'm Christy McDonald. Hope you're enjoying all of that snow and cold. And now that we got that complaining out of the way, let's complain about two other things, roads and taxes. The two combined in Lansing this past week. We're going to take a look at the Senate bill to raise the gas tax to fix the roads and if this is the right solution. Plus, one lawmaker's fight to change how Electoral College votes are counted in Michigan. We'd be one of the only states across the country to do this. Also, the impact of President Obama's big announcement on immigration reform. And The Daily Show takes on water shutoffs in Detroit with the help of Nolan. You'll see what happened there. It's all coming up on MiWeek. But let's start with those roads. Last Thursday, the Senate passed a bill that would raise the gas tax on the wholesale price of gasoline. And that percentage would increase over the next 4 years from a 9.5% to 15.5%. At current rates, we'd be looking at a 25-cent increase in April and 40 cents 4 years from now. This would make Michigan have the highest gas tax in the country, but would raise anywhere from $750 million to $1.5 billion. State House members are already studying the bill, and we will start our discussion there with our MiWeek contributors, Nolan of the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Hey guys, it's always good to see you.
Good to see you.
And I want to say cheers with our new MiWeek mugs. How about that, huh?
How about that? Are these on sale?
Well, they could be with a tote bag, perhaps. Right? Perhaps we'll have to make that a pledge drive sort of thing.
You write a big check. We stick a John Denver cassette right in there. Mail it off. Right. We got a warehouse of those cassettes. You put them right in there and send them out to your house.
All right, with all the great weather that we've had this week, it brings us to thinking about our roads again. And the Senate is one step ahead of us because last week they brought up the idea of having a gas tax. So where are we in terms of traction, Stephen?
Well, I mean, that's a big step, right? It's saying we do need more money. This is one way to get it. I'm not sure it's the best way to get it. And I think there are some other things that probably need to be discussed about truck weights, charging some of these big giant trucks who trundle through our roads all the time, registration fees. This would be a very high tax, and I think there's going to be some pushback against that because, one of the things that comes up is, well, if we're paying this much tax, then are we getting all of our value out of that? I mean, there's still a question about how much we pay for roads as it is and the condition of them. But this is a step in the right direction, and we'll see where it goes from here.
But I wrote a column about last week about, with gas prices this low, it would be a good time to tack on an extra 17 cents.
But you can't really count. You can't count on the gas and the gas prices on staying this low forever.
But this wholesale change they're making is levels it out a little bit. But I got hammered. I really question whether this is going to go through the House even on the lame duck because there is absolutely no trust amongst the voters, amongst the residents of Michigan, that the money they're spending, that they're getting the value from. And I think they need to do a really good explanation, really good selling job before they even attempt this. I don't see the representatives biting, giving the pushback I'm seeing out there. We've got to answer the questions, as Steve said, about truck rates. Got to tell people why the sales tax that's on gasoline isn't going to roads because people keep bringing that up over and over. And you have to answer that question with the 5th highest gas taxes in the country. Why isn't there enough money? So I think you've got to really address a comprehensive package here that takes on everything from prevailing wage to what we do with the sales tax dollars and how we replace those.
I mean, one of the big problems is you have states around us that spend less and get better results.
Almost every one.
So
Why is
somebody,
that?
I don't think anybody knows, or at least no one in Michigan seems to know. And so I think, at some point, legislators and the governor will be called on to answer that question. Are we getting what we can get out of the money that we're spending? Everyone sort of seems to agree that it's not enough. We do need more. But you also need to make sure that when we fix I-75 and close it down for 6 months through the city and all that stuff, that a year later there aren't giant potholes in the middle of it.
And that's what Reader's been telling me all week. Look, you've got to improve standards. And I don't know whether our standards are different. I don't know really whether our truck weights make a difference. But I think before they're going to get approval for this, they're going to have to explain all that, and they're going to have to sell the people on it, because as much as people hate these roads, they hate the idea of paying more in taxes, a lot more.
So is the Senate bill then strictly a conversation starter, that what we see there will not be perhaps the final roads package, and is a sales tax, state sales tax, is that out of the question?
I don't think anything's out of the question. I do think it's a conversation starter. In some ways, it puts a concrete idea in the House for them to debate and either pass, in the same way, or change and send back. I don't think this is the final version that we'll see, partially because this is not even enough. I mean, if you're going to do this, you still have to raise some more money somewhere else. Are you going to raise those registration fees? Are you going to increase the toll that you're putting on these trucks who are coming through the state? It's got to be a more comprehensive package. But again, this starts us on that road.
And I think we've been talking about this need for 2 or 3 years now. The governor's been pitching it and still hasn't sold it, still hasn't made the case. He stood up before the people several times and said, well, your car repair bills, your tire bills, all of that are high because of these potholes. Our job competitiveness is low because of them, and that's all right. But he hasn't taken head on the objections people have to raising more revenue for roads. And until you explain that, and he's got very little time to do it, because if it doesn't get done in the lame duck, I do not believe this new legislature is going to take it on.
That's what I was going to say, because this is something that he talked about that that we can't get done in lame duck. But when you're talking about now, this starts the conversation, and these are the information that people need, or the sell job. That takes a long time, and then it leads people to frustration of, okay, well, we've known that the roads have been bad for quite a while. Why is this the conversation starter in November?
In November, it's because that's what we could get done. I mean, nobody wanted to deal with this in the spring because there was an election coming up, and everyone was afraid that, I will get some sort of pushback at the ballot box if I raise taxes. That's part of the sort of poisonous electoral environment we live in, where people will say across the board, I want this to be better. I want schools to be better. I want roads to be better. But they won't say they will pay more to do that. And so it does put politicians, I think, in a somewhat odd position where they're trying to address the things that people say are important, but they can't raise any revenue to do it.
I mean, people don't believe their money's being spent efficiently.
And that is a huge problem. That is a huge problem then, if you have that people have total mistrust of what their government is doing and how they're running it and what kind of funding that they're allocating it. That to me is an even larger topic to
across
talk
the board,
about.
though.
It is across the board, and some of it's legitimate, some of it is very cynical, though. The idea, there's an idea that public employees ought to work for pennies, which is absurd, and no health care or no retirement. Well, I don't want somebody like that teaching my child in a classroom. There's this idea that we can get pristine roads for no money. We haven't raised the gas tax since the late 90s.
But there's also a callousness on the part of government, and every day people are reading stories about waste here and waste there, and somebody pocketed this amount of my money, and that's cumulative. That builds up that mistrust. And I think these local communities in the states, which do a much better job of spending your taxpayer money than the federal government does, because they're closer to the people. I mean, the federal government does a lot of damage with its sort of cavalier attitude about how it spends our money.
All right. Well, turning to another issue in the lame duck session that's causing some heated debate, how Michigan awards its electoral votes in the presidential election. The bill would give the winner of the popular vote at least 9 of the 16 votes here in Michigan, and they'd get an additional vote for every 1.5% over 50% of the vote they received. The rest of the votes will go to the second place finisher. Now, supporters say this would make Michigan more relevant in presidential elections. Critics say this tries to stack the deck for Republicans, and we'd be only the third state that doesn't do winner take all. Stephen, I'm going to start with you because this is something that you pulled up. This was weeks ago when we did a little projection into what could happen.
Like I was crazy.
Exactly, what could happen in lame duck, and lo and behold, this topic is up there. Why is this coming up number one, and explain why it's so divisive?
Well, part of it is that Republicans nationally have decided that this is a way to change the electoral balance in presidential elections. It is no secret that that's a party whose base is getting older and dying, while Democrats are growing their base through immigrants and new voters. This is a way to sort of tilt the scale a little bit so that the concentration of Democratic voters that you tend to see around urban areas hurts them in the Electoral College. One thing I don't want to be doing is just sitting here defending the Electoral College and the way that we do it. I mean, if you look into the history of the Electoral College, the constitutional history of it, the racial history that was involved with it, it's not defensible. And I'm not at all saying that the way we do it now makes a lot of sense. I think there's a long overdue conversation about why we don't just have a popular vote for president. At the same time, this kind of change, which is really cynically driven by Republicans who are afraid of the fraying base that they have and the fact that it's going to be harder and harder for them to win presidential elections the way that we do it. It can't really be taken. It can't really be taken seriously.
Well, that
Nolan.
base didn't look so frayed a couple weeks ago.
Did 2 years ago.
It was thumping. But anyway, regardless of that,
6 years ago.
I'd agree with Steve. This is not a lame duck session issue. This is an issue that should get considerable debate and be weighed for its impact. I don't think you fundamentally change the democratic process in a lame duck session, and I don't think you do so to give one party or the other a partisan advantage. One of the ideas floated is that these electoral votes would be awarded by congressional district, which would make redistricting a nuclear war. Every 10 years it comes around. I do think there's merit, as Steve said, in awarding your electoral votes by the popular vote, because if you're in a solid blue state or a solid red state and you're not blue or red, your vote basically doesn't count. And you get tired of coming out to the polls.
Sure.
I mean, if you live in California and you're a Republican, what's the point of voting in a presidential election? And I think it would force these candidates to broaden their campaign so they're not concentrated in 7, 8, and then at the end 2 or 3 states. They'd have to mount a nationwide campaign. I think you get better candidates, better campaigns. And it's a discussion we should have in Michigan. We could lead the nation, but you don't do it in lame duck.
And I think it's interesting because when one of the defending it would be making Michigan more relevant, and you just spoke to the fact that we would be trying to make our votes relevant in a presidential election, which is the sad state of affairs that things have become.
Yeah, I mean, it won't make us more relevant. I think if you do it, because you have so few other states that have done it, it will make us less appealing, I think, to the candidates, because you can't get the number of votes here that you used to. If everybody did it this way, it might be different. And there's nothing wrong with doing it in theory. If every state were doing it this way, it might make a little more sense than the way we do it now, the winner-take-all system. The problem is, like Nolan said, tying it to this congressional redistricting process, which is so fraught with partisan advantage, not just here in Michigan, but in every state.
And I don't think this current proposal actually does it. It's got some very complex
there's some weird
system. I think if you're going to do it, you keep it simple. You get 45% of the vote in Michigan, you get 45% of the electoral votes, 60s,
sure.
and just keep it as simple as possible. You start making it complex, and voters lose trust in the system.
So this is going to go anywhere, somewhere, nowhere?
No, and I think the risk here is that if they bring this up, given its partisan nature, you lessen the chances of getting anything else done in lame duck that you need to do, namely roads, as we just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the leadership, particularly in the Senate, is not really thrilled about this. So I think it'd have a hard time getting out.
All right, well, President Obama is announcing he will use his executive authority to offer close to 5 million undocumented immigrants temporary protection from deportation. The order would cover some parents of U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents. It's estimated there are 150,000 undocumented immigrants here in Michigan, and while many people can agree the immigration system has serious flaws, Republicans are furious with the president's decision to do this through executive authority, something even the president said he may not have the power to do last year. Now, first off, executive authority has been used by other presidents, Republicans as well, regarding immigration. So, Nolan, I'm going to start with you. Why is this different?
Well, you know, it'll be up for the courts to decide whether he has this authority or not. It's certainly a larger use of executive power than's been done in terms of immigration. But the last two presidents have so expanded the power of that office at the expense of the legislative branch. It's something that Congress should be worried about, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, because as we know, as we're seeing in the Senate now, you change rules, they stay changed, whether you're in the minority or the majority. My bigger issue here is the tone of this. It's this post-election tone the president has struck to say, hey, in your face, I'm going to get my agenda done whether you like it or not. And by the way, I got 2 years left. I'm going to veer hard to the left. There was an opportunity here, and I think the American people would have responded well to it if both the congressional leaders and the president said, look, you know, here we are. Voters rejected your agenda. They expect us to not go hard right. Voters want to get things done. Let's work on a few things that we can agree on and establish a conciliatory tone, because in 2 years, if they don't, they're going to throw the Republicans out just like they threw the Democrats out. Both sides have incentives here to try and find some common ground, and the president struck a tone of there is no common ground.
Before we actually discuss the immigration issue, which is actually very, very important, let's talk, Stephen, about the fact that the president is going ahead with this. Could this lead to some kind of skirmish with Republicans, or we could be looking at some kind of government shutdown? Is the politics of this going to take over more than the issue of this?
I'd be shocked if we saw a government shutdown. That would be suicide, political suicide. For Republicans, they would be blamed for it, and we would be on the road, to a very, very different 2016 than they're already looking at. I'm not entirely comfortable with the breadth of executive power that this president and like Nolan said, the previous president and even Bill Clinton have sort of appropriated for themselves, and I think there is a showdown coming at some point about that. The Constitution does give the president a lot of latitude over certain areas. I think we have seen an incredible creep in those areas over time, and this is a pretty big infringement, I think, on the process. At the same time, this is a president who has tried to move this issue through for 3 years, and it's almost like you can't get Congress to say what they want. First, it was lead on this. So he tried to do that, and they didn't want to do what he wanted to do. So he said, I'm going to take myself out of the process. He stayed out of it and let Congress do it on their own. You got an immigration bill through the Senate. The House won't take it up. So I think at some point he's like, and then they're blaming him and saying, well, now you're not leading on it.
Steve, that's the tension the Constitution builds in between the various branches, and you can't allow frustration to say,
I agree with that.
I'm going to ignore the Constitution. I disagree that the president has tried to work with Congress and is willing to work now. I think he's completely unwilling.
He did on this issue initially.
I think you're going to see in these last 2 years a very hard ideological left turn. We've seen it already, with his focus so intensely early on with climate change in these last few weeks. I don't think there's any middle ground he sees here. It's just going to be push to the left, and I think he damages the Democrats' chances in 2016.
But is what he is doing with immigration reform in protecting these 5 million undocumented immigrants in the country from being deported, is this the right step that we should be doing in terms of immigration reform?
There's no question. This is not about amnesty. This is not about putting people on public assistance roles. This is about giving people who are already working, frankly, the legal infrastructure they need to pay taxes, to be a part of the system as opposed to being outside it. This is a no-brainer, and this is one of the things that I think is very frustrating about this Congress. They have been working on this for 3 years and couldn't even come up with this as a solution. I don't think there's a good reason that this is not done.
We've got a new Senate coming in place, a lot of new members who were elected because people were frustrated with the gridlock. Why not give that new Senate a chance to get in place and then take some reasonable immigration policy to it and say, let's work together, rather than say, oh gosh, you either pass it or I'm going to sign it, and then 3 days later, sign the thing. I don't think he's really given the new Congress, and it will be a new Congress.
It will be a new Congress.
And I don't think he's really given that Congress a chance to work with him.
Well, let me ask you, Stephen, about how this impacts Michigan. As I said at the beginning of the topic, that we have 150,000 undocumented immigrants here in the state. I mean, this is also an economic driver as well that the governor has tried to capitalize on as well.
The governor is absolutely on board with these changes, and he's right. This is a big part of moving our economy ahead. I mean, if you were to, at the national level, factor in some sort of expansion of immigration and legalization of the people who are here, there's estimated that we would add almost 2 points to the GDP each year. These are crucial economic issues. We are locking an incredible amount of our population out of the economic recovery that could be just because we don't like them or we don't like the way they came here.
Well, it's the latter. I think it's the fact that the legal aspect of it, and we do have a respect for law in this country, and an understanding
when we want to,
and an understanding that we can't just show up in England and plant ourselves. And I mean, every other country enforces their immigration rules and their borders. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have a problem here we have to address. I question the urgency with the pretended urgency. These 5 million aren't in danger of being deported. We haven't been deporting them. If it were so urgent, the president could have taken this up in his first year, his second year, when he had control of Congress. There's time to work with Congress on reasonable reform that includes more visa for high-skilled immigrants, which is a critical need, and just takes it in a more comprehensive issue, finds the common ground here, because I do believe both sides have an interest in fixing this.
All right, last word on this, Stephen.
I mean, I think this is, prelude to some. I think one of the things that could happen is, pushing it on this small step will loosen up some of the issue in the new Congress and get them to deal with, that visa issue, the amnesty issue, which is still hanging out there. I'm not necessarily in favor of the process here. I think that's a problem, but this is gonna, I hope, move us forward on immigration.
All right, and finally, Nolan made a national TV cameo on The Daily Show this week in a story about the Detroit water shutoffs. Take a look.
Why pick on Detroit? Why should Detroit be the only place that has to pass out free water?
Who have you heard ask for free water?
You have a lot of these folks out there saying Detroit shouldn't be charging people for water.
But who have you heard literally ask for free water?
If you don't pay your bills, you're assuming you can get your water for free.
So is it possible that the people that aren't paying don't want free water? They want a payment plan adjusted to their income?
Absolutely, it's possible.
So I have a question for you. By framing it as saying people just want free water, which no one has actually said, are you somewhat misleading this argument right now?
In what sense?
Okay, so the first thing that Nolan says is they made me look bald.
I don't think they can help that.
All right, now you can't say that on TV. But I want to ask you about what the process is, because I'm a huge Daily Show fan, and I want to know what the process was in terms of you sitting there, and how long did they pepper you with questions?
90 minutes. And you knew all along they were looking for that gotcha moment. So everything else you said that was rational or sensible was going to go on the cutting floor. They were 90 minutes repeating the same questions over and over, and all the while trying to get me to take a bottle of water and drink it. I mean, I'll tell you, I was harsh, but I was not going to drink
that
water
on
camera.
TV.
So
Yeah, were you surprised he kept his cool so well? He seemed very even.
I counseled against doing the interview, as I recall.
I thought it was fun.
Because I think it's a setup. It's a show that loves to get you know, somebody like Nolan in the straight man position and make fun of him. I thought he held his own, though.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting that as I'm watching this, I'm like, they're putting Nolan in the role of defending the city and the water department.
And that was a place I didn't want to be. I spent 40 minutes of that 90 minutes talking about how the many ways the city has screwed this process up. But of course, you know, that's never going to get on either. I mean,
free water. I don't understand why you don't support free water. No, it's a human right.
Push that mug away, Nolan. You don't get any of that.
I want free bourbon, but I mean, this whole yeah, and the city wouldn't go on, and I think they use me by default. But and I do think the city has a case here. They've got to collect their water bills. They've got to collect their tax bills, and you know, that's I think the basic point here is, people got to start paying their bills.
Well, and the point that gets lost is the reason that those of us who do pay bills in the city are paying so much is because so many people are not.
And believe me, I made that point 15 times, but it's never going to.
If you don't pay, your neighbors pay, and that's not fair.
And your neighbors may be as poor off as you are.
That's right.
Okay. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks, guys, so much. That's going to do it for My Week. Thanks for joining us. Find us at MiWeek.org and on Facebook and on Twitter. I'm Christy McDonald. For all of us at Detroit Public TV, we'll see you next week. Take care.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta,